All right, could you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you all for being here this evening. Jody, could you call the roll, please?
Dennis.
Here.
Harold.
Here.
Hollenbach.
Here.
Odericio.
Here.
Phipps.
Here.
Robinette.
Here.
Robando.
Here.
Okay. So the minutes from our meeting on August 21st were distributed for perusal prior to this evening. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Correspondence. Do we have any correspondence this evening?
We do. There are two items. The financial budget summary report for the month of July 2023 was received and distributed to council prior to this evening's meeting and is noted for the record. The mayor is requesting confirmation of an appointment. The appointment is for John Stewart to serve on the Transportation Advisory Committee through May 31st, 2024. The appointment is effective immediately.
Mr. President,
Mr. Harold.
I move that we approve appointment of John Stewart to the Transportation Advisory Committee beginning now and for the term that ends May 31st, 2024.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, welcome, John Stewart. That brings us to lobby visitations. Do we have anyone signed up this evening?
We do. Brian Wiles.
And if you could please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Brian Wiles. My address is 1808 Timber Ridge Drive, Bowling Green, Ohio. I'm coming mostly with questions that I know can't be answered right now, but questions I would like to raise, and then a few just specific comments about the ordinance amending section 150.85, 150.87, and 150.89. I wanted to just start off by sharing that I am a small landlord here in town, have a handful of properties that we've worked very hard over the last 10 years to acquire and try to truly better the community. My family and I care deeply about Bowling Green, and we've worked really hard to try to provide safe, affordable housing here in Bowling Green. Most of the properties that we purchased were distressed properties. And so we put a lot of sweat equity into those properties, time, blood, sweat, tears, if you will, into bringing the value of the neighborhoods up as well as in the rentals. And I have a little bit of a concern from some of the things that I've heard and seen over the last 6 months that a lot of times property owners, landlords are just kind of lumped into one category as folks that are just out to try to make more money or folks that don't care about the community. So I wanted to share a few thoughts just as somebody who's on the smaller side of that scale. And specifically as we relate to talking about this amendment, my biggest concern is just I don't actually know what it means. I know there's going to be a meeting on Thursday, but so much of the language seems very confusing, and so much of the ability to enforce it seems very subjective. And again, as a small landlord, I know that we're talking about enforcing this 28 years from now, and who knows if any of us will even be around by then, of course. But at the same time, I think that I have concerns for our city, for the improvement, as well as just thinking about the landlords that need to spend time investing. And I think legislation like this could potentially hinder smaller landlords' ability to purchase properties that need value added to them, that need to help increase the property values in the neighborhoods, because the more regulation that potentially that we put into place on things like this, I truly do worry that it would kind of handcuff folks like me who've worked really hard to try to better the community. So I say all that because I've talked to large landlords, I've talked to small landlords. I have certain properties that I have I really don't know whether this would be affected by this or not. And so now that we're kind of at this place where it seems like it's kind of moving along a little bit, and I don't know all the process of that, I just wanted to bring that to light. So thank you very much.
If you would like to send me an email, let me know what your questions are. I'll do my best to get an answer.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Abhishek Badki.
Hi, my name is Abhishek Bhati, 426 North Main Street. I'm here to talk about affordable housing for about 3 hours. No, I'll be very
Your
quick.
time's up.
So, according to U.S. Census, Bowling Green median income is around $37,000. And if you look at several realty websites like Zillow, the median house price in BG is about $225,000. And this price has increased by 8.5% in last year. So there is clearly a gap. People income is $37,000. Household income, and the house prices are really, really high. So what I urge you as you go into your strategic planning meeting to think about new ways, innovative ways, or just different ways to increase more affordable housing in BG. And this is really important because we have 450 new jobs which are being created in BG because of Abbott Labs. And why is this important? Study after study has suggested if you have more affordable housing, it means stronger, resilient, and more vibrant local communities. Also increases uniform income growth and also wealth generation, which is broadly across all spectrums. So hence, affordable housing is important. And as you go into your strategy plans, please think about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Steve Ricard.
Good evening. Steve Ricard, 502 West Worcester, here in Bowling Green. I am here also representing the community group BG Strong, and we're asking City Council, based on the fact that next week you have your strategic planning committee or meeting, that you consider some of the suggestions that we've made, and we're just here to kind of remind you of what several of those are. There are 3 that I have. First, we would ask you to cancel the city's agreement with the health department for property inspections and reallocate those funds to city code enforcement. That's the first. Second, we would like to reiterate that council exert its influence on city administration to follow the guidelines of Chapter 121 and impose and collect fines for failure to register rental properties, as well as impose and collect fines for rental property owners who fail to submit their exterior self-inspection reports by this coming October 1st. To make this second request, we make it for 2 reasons. First, we have often expressed as a group our desire for increased code enforcement. But secondly, and probably most important, the funding collected from these registrants who are errant can be put to good use in the form of community development projects or possibly funding low-cost or even no-cost loans to individuals who can show the need for such funding to repair, restore, or improve their property in which they reside. Beyond that, we suggest that a committee be formed that would include several council members, appropriate administrators, but most important, members of the community to help make informed decisions for the use of these funds. And third, you have heard me speak before about short-term rentals, STRs, like Airbnb. As other college towns, we're asking you to continue to look into that issue as other college towns have done. We believe STRs need, if not a separate registration form, at least a specific section of the current form that identifies them as STRs, that gives the city an idea of its occupancy, of its online platforms that are used, and any other mechanisms for the city and the police department to monitor their use and their compliance with the city code. Finally, we thank the council for its progress and its commitment to improving BG's neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's it.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay. All right, well, that concludes lobby visitation then. Brings us to the introduction of new legislation.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette.
from the Finance Committee, I have an ordinance providing supplemental appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio during the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2023 and ending December 31, 2023.
Mr. President,
Mr. Harold.
from the council committee as a whole, I have a resolution in support of the Bowling Green school system and specifically the public high school levy on the November 7th ballot.
Mr. President,
Mr. Rabando.
from the Parks and Recreations Committee, I have a resolution authorizing the City of Bowling Green to participate in the Federal Land and Water Conservation Fund program and to file an application and accept grant funding upon grant application approval.
Okay. Brings us to official reports. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, council. I don't really have anything specific to report this evening, but I did want to introduce a special guest of mine this evening. Background on this is you have heard me talk before about all of the tremendous benefits that the presence of Bowling Green State University in our community provides to our community. I've also mentioned in the past, I thought that one of the more underappreciated benefits of having BGSU here is the presence of Division I athletics. It's pretty great to be able to take a short trip across town and see outstanding, high-quality student athletes in their sports. So this evening, I am really pleased to welcome a representative of one of Bowling Green State University's most successful programs. That's the women's soccer team. The coach, Jimmy Walker, is with us this evening. So welcome, Coach. A little bit of background on this program. This truly is one of the most successful programs at BGSU and one of the most successful programs in the Mid-American Conference. Coach Walker is the pride of Birmingham, England, his hometown. This is his fourth season at Bowling Green State University. His record here, overall record is 26-13-9, MAC record 19-5-4. His team is the 2020 and 2021 MAC regular season and conference tournament champion, and they participated in the NCAA tournament. I think he also won it all in 19, right? So they had a three-peat there. If you go to their website, you see a lot of great highlights of the student athletes, the coaches, and their success. But one of the things that really drew my attention was the following statistics that were posted from the spring of 2023. The team had a 3.76 team GPA. They had 23 student athletes with a GPA of 3.5 or higher. And they had 16 student athletes with a GPA of 4.0. So not only are they achieving on the pitch, they're achieving in the classroom. And this is a great source of pride for Bowling Green State University and the city of Bowling Green. So I asked Coach to come this evening, spend a couple of minutes and highlight his program and talk specifically about a really great game coming up here in town, an opportunity for the community to show up and show their support. So Coach. Right here, we've got a cordless mic for you, sir.
So first of all, thank you for having me tonight. It's a pleasure to be here, being in the Bowling Green community and living here. Love being here. My family's here. Kids go to school here. So it's a great community. And thank you for everything you guys do to make it a place. We do have a massive, we've had a big season so far. As you can see, I've not got much hair based on the schedule we put together probably. But we've got a massive game coming up. We play Notre Dame on Sunday, 1 o'clock at Bowling Green at Cochrane Stadium. And it's the first time we've ever had a number one seeded team come to Bowling Green to play for women's soccer. So it's arguably the biggest team we've ever had come to Bowling Green and play us. So they're top 10 in the country, number one seed in the NCAA tournament. They've got a number of US women's national team players playing for them right now. So it's going to be a big game for us, a great opportunity for the community to get behind the program. We're going to have our work cut out for us, so it's going to be a tough one. but we're working hard to get everybody prepared and ready. So we'd love to get as much support out to the game as we possibly can to come and help. And then obviously there's big things going on within the department. Our men's team has a big game on Friday against DePaul. Volleyball has a big game coming up with Michigan, and obviously our football season kicks off this week as well. So lots of good things going on with BG Athletics, and we love being part of the community. So any help would be greatly appreciated. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Coach.
Alan's up.
Yeah, thank you, Coach. We appreciate you coming this evening and wish you well this weekend and all season long. So encourage everyone in the community to get out and support our teams. So that concludes my report, subject to any questions that you may have. But I guess that's not my report. I want to encourage everybody to support Black Swamp this weekend. I'm guessing Lori will have some things to talk about logistics, but we all know what a tremendous event that is, and certainly that's an event that warrants our support as well. So, any questions?
Any questions for the mayor? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Municipal Administrator, Ms. Treader.
Good evening. Yes, as the mayor mentioned, another big event coming up this weekend is our Black Swamp Arts Festival. As you may recall, last year, the festival changed to begin the art as well as the music on Friday. So that means that our road closures are moved up to Friday during the day. The Main Street area will be closed as it is every year for the festival. We're actually already seeing some preparations ongoing right now in City Parking Lot number 2. Signs are in the area noting where those restrictions are. So as always, we remind folks at this time of the year that we have a lot of visitors here in town. Please be patient with them as they navigate our community, and we're hoping for a wonderful, safe, fun, enjoyable weekend here in Bowling Green. Never a shortage of things, great, fun things to do here in the fall. Also want to remind you that there is training on the city's new zoning code on September 21st. That's a Thursday night, 6 to 9 p.m. here in the council chamber. We'll have information from ZoneCo. That was part of our contract with them to start to work through some of the logistics of administering the new zoning code. And lastly, I'm actually going to be turning the microphone over to, am I beeping?
I think every time you touch your mic, it beeps.
Oh, okay, awesome. So I can like really make some like music or something here, you know? Can get a tune going. All right, before I turn my microphone off so I don't continue beeping, I'm going to ask Katie Thompson, our Economic Development Director, to talk with you about Resolution 3852 and Ordinance 9120. Council members Harold and Robinette had both asked some questions about that, asked for additional information, so we have a PowerPoint presentation for all of you to go through that. But before I do so, any questions for me?
Are there any questions for Lori?
Yes. Have we established a process yet for reserving the room off of council chambers? I've had a few community groups reach out about that.
We actually just had a conversation about that on Thursday, so we will be putting that in writing for city council members.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? All right. Katie,
Okay,
you're up.
I'm
Yep.
up. All right, so I know a few of you had asked some questions about the legislation that's been before you. And so this is essentially a set of residential investment programs. There were two components to that legislation. A part of it was about our community reinvestment areas. We're going to say CRAs for short, and then a temporary fee moratorium. So I'm going to talk about both and give you an opportunity to ask some questions. The bulk of this presentation, I promise I won't go on and on, but will be about the CRAs because they're just a little more complex. So we're going to go through that first, then we'll talk about the fee moratorium. I want to give a little bit of a background about CRAs, just to provide that context before we get into specifically the legislation that you're considering. So CRAs are a tool that offer real estate tax abatement for improvements made to a property. So this is not a new program. This is a program through the Ohio Department of Development. We have been using CRAs in Bowling Green since 1989, so not new to Bowling Green either. And council passed legislation in fall of last year establishing CRA areas east and west. So I'm sure you remember that. The allowed uses of CRAs through the Ohio Department of Development are for residential remodeling, residential new construction, commercial and industrial remodeling, and also commercial and industrial new construction. So every kind of use you can imagine. And how does this apply to our current situation here in Bowling Green? We've discussed the need for housing diversity. We have homes in our community in need of additional investment. We have an overall lack of housing inventory. And then while we're lacking in inventory, we have increasing workforce demands. And there's also several action items noted in your council goals and also in several city studies, including the CAP, kind of citing some of these housing situations. I also want to address a couple common questions with CRAs before we get into the specifics of the legislation before you. First is, does issuing a CRA agreement reduce the taxes paid to the taxing agencies? The one thing I want to explain about this is that current taxes are not taken off the books. So an abatement through a community reinvestment area is only applied to the increase in taxes that are created by the improvements to a property. So if there is an existing home or an existing facility, those taxes that are already on the roll from that property are not removed because of the community reinvestment area. It's only on the increase caused by the additional investment to the property. So the benefit is that abating taxes does increase the likelihood of investment, which is what we want to see in our community. And then those taxes, once the abatement period is over, are collected in perpetuity, once that abatement is up. Another common question is, how do CRAs affect our local school districts? This is obviously an important conversation. So according to the Ohio Department of Development, CRAs can abate all property tax at 100%, which means the schools would not receive funding from abated properties. However, the City of Bowling Green has worked with Bowling Green City Schools and with Penna, and we've established a process so that we can utilize this tool without eliminating the funding to the schools. So we have collaborated on that, and what we have developed is the requirement of a pilot payment, that's a payment in lieu of taxes, to the local school districts when 100% abatement is offered. So essentially, we offer the 100% abatement, and within that agreement, there is a separate agreement between the schools and whatever entity is getting that abatement, requiring them to make a payment of 50% of that abatement amount directly to the schools, which results in a net 50% abatement and essentially making the schools whole. So that is the process that we've developed here in this community. It's also representative of the process used in Wood County and in other areas across the state in order to utilize the tool but continue to support our schools. Then another common question, do other communities use this tool? Yes, the CRA program is widely used throughout the state of Ohio. There are CRAs or enterprise zones, which are basically an identical tool used in every single county in Ohio. So we are not alone in utilizing this. Okay, so then let's take that information and apply it to the current legislation that's before you regarding CRA East and West. So the whole purpose of this investment program was to support council's goals to improve our residential areas and increase our housing options. As a reminder, this CRA already exists. This simply adds structure to the residential component of the CRA that we've already been using. We want to address existing neighborhoods and encourage investment through remodeling, and we want to increase diverse housing options in Bowling Green through new construction. The specific structure that we've proposed is for residential new construction or remodeling, and we've defined that very specifically, 1, 2, or 3 units with one of those being owner-occupied, in which the project cost is at least $25,000. We could abate that property for up to 10 years at 50%. Because the abatement is only 50%, there would be no pilot payment necessary to the schools because the schools would be funded in the remaining 50% that would be collected. And then for commercial and industrial properties, commercial also includes multifamily development. For new construction or remodeling in which the project cost is at least $50,000, that project can be abated up to 15 years at 100%, but with that mandatory pilot payment where 50% is required to go to the local schools. So that is what you've been considering in the legislation. And then really quickly to touch on the other part of these investment programs, the fee moratorium. So the purpose would be to have a tool to encourage new housing starts after experience a decade of stagnant growth in the housing sector. And while we've had that stagnant growth in the housing sector, we've seen the opposite in our commercial and industrial sectors, which means, our need for homes has increased dramatically, and new home starts have just kind of been stagnant, have not kept up at all. So the program would be a limited time moratorium, which would expire on December 31st of 2025. It would eliminate fees related to planning review, inspection, utility, and site development. It would be applicable to new home construction. And so how does this apply to our current situation? Well, we've seen this successfully implemented in some other cities, and it did spur housing development. So that's exactly what we would hope for here. There certainly would be a potential temporary impact on revenue. And city staff did carefully analyze those impacts to the budget. You all received a printout of those, of what those estimates would be. And city administration does feel comfortable that other growth in the city funds would help offset that temporary impact. The other hope for this program is that as construction costs have increased dramatically due to cost of land and cost of goods, that this is some aspect of savings that can then be passed on to the end user. So that would be the ultimate hope of this program. So that's kind of a quick recap of the two programs, the CRAs, the residential components of those, and then the fee moratorium. And I'd like to go ahead and take any questions that you might have.
Mr. President?
Mr. Harold?
I have a question. With respect to the fee moratorium, is one of the purposes of that to encourage developers to purchase land for putting homes in Bowling Green?
Yes.
And we just got through adding potentially over 100 homes over on Brim. So they've already been they've already decided to come to Bowling Green. So we don't need to incentivize them to come here. They're going to be coming here. So would the fee moratorium affect that property or not? In other words, when does it start, and who does it affect? Who's the market for it?
Sure, it would affect that property if it starts immediately and then runs through, the end of December, essentially 2 years from now. It would certainly apply to that project. That developer has not closed on the property yet, so that is likely still moving forward, and we're hoping that's all moving in the right direction. But to be totally honest, 130 homes still isn't enough for the increased workforce demands that we're facing. So we're hoping to continue to incentivize that. We're hoping to attract some additional investment in the area as well.
Yeah, my question was more, thank you, but my question was more with, not that having it in place, but not including those properties that have already gone partway through the processing. In other words, yeah, going forward makes sense, but for this 100 to 130 homes, would that be something that would be excluded from the moratorium, partially included, or completely included?
It would be included. However, those will not all be built out in a 2-year period.
Right.
So it would only include what they could get done in that time frame, if that makes sense. We did not have plans to exclude that project.
Okay, and that's what your recommendation would be, is to include them?
I won't speak for everybody here.
Yes, that's our recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? All right, well, thank you very much for your very detailed presentation.
Welcome.
Is there a, may I ask Lori a question?
Sure.
It's part of that. Lori, hi. Could you enlighten me on the use of the room behind you? My understanding, and please obviously correct me if I'm wrong.
Can I take this one?
Sure.
While you were out of the room, we had this conversation.
Well, I apologize to everybody. There were pressing matters that I needed to attend to. So
Yeah, so we had a conversation about it on Thursday, and she's going to send out information.
okay, cool. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Councilmember Hollenbach.
Well, I try. That brings us to Public Infrastructure Director, Mr. O'Connor.
Just one update for you. We've had 3 linemen that traveled to Florida to help with mutual aid for the public power communities down there. They left last Tuesday. They camped out somewhere in the Georgia area until the storm came inland and caused the damage, and then they went in. But they traveled with other communities from Wapakoneta, City of Bryan, Piqua also sent some people down, Cuyahoga Falls, Wadsworth, Westerville. So a lot of them are down in the same area working together. The initial place they went to didn't have much damage, so they didn't stay long there. There was a co-op, similar to what like Hancock Wood is for our area, but a co-op down there had some damage as well, just to the east of where they were stationed, and they were dispatched over to help out with the co-op. So they've been down there working on that area. That area saw quite extensive damage, and the plan is for them to return around Friday to come back. We do talk with the mayor and Lori about, before we send crews down there, make sure we have enough coverage for our customers in case there was an issue back here in Bowling Green, because obviously we don't want to leave our customers during an outage. But yeah, so they're down there now and helping out, and looking forward to them returning. So that's all I have, unless you have questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. O'Connell? All right, thank you very much. That brings us to council committee reports. Are there any council committee reports? Hearing none. Reading of legislation. Jody, could you lead us in the reading of legislation?
Legislation for first reading. Resolution number 3853 for first reading. Resolution authorizing the City of Bowling Green to participate in the Federal Land and Water Conservation Fund Program and to file an application and accept grant funding upon grant application approval. Resolution number 3854 for first reading. Resolution in support of the Bowling Green school system and specifically the public high school levy on the November 7th ballot. Ordinance number 9124 for first reading. Ordinance providing supplemental appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio during the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2023 and ending December 31, 2023.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette.
I move to suspend the rules and give ordinance 9124 its second and third readings.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Jody?
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Odericio,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Rabando,
Yes.
Dennis.
Yes.
Okay, the rules are suspended for ordinance 9124.
Ordinance number 9124 for second and third readings. Ordinance providing supplemental appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio during the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2023 and ending December 31, 2023.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette.
I move to adopt ordinance 9124.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Jody?
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Odericio,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Urbando,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Harold.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 9124 is adopted.
Legislation for second reading. Resolution number 3852 for second reading. Resolution implementing sections 3735.65 through 3735.70 of the Ohio Revised Code, establishing and describing the boundaries of the Bowling Green Community Reinvestment Area East and the Bowling Green Community Reinvestment Area West in the city of Bowling Green, and designating a housing officer to administer this program. Ordinance number 9120 for second reading. Ordinance authorizing a temporary reduction and/or moratorium of certain residential building permit fees. Ordinance number 9121, ordinance amending and adopting sections 95A.03C11, 95A.09D1, and 95A.10C4 of the codified ordinances of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio regarding income tax regulations effective December 31st, 2023. Ordinance number 9122 for second reading. Ordinance amending and adopting section 33.01G, pay band 3 of the codified ordinances of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio regarding salary schedule established. Ordinance number 9123 for second reading. Ordinance amending and adopting section 152.25A1 of the codified ordinances of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio regarding fire damage reduction. Legislation for third reading. Resolution number 3850 for third reading. Resolution appointing the representative and alternate to serve on the Board of Directors of the Buckeye, Ohio Risk Management Agency, BORMA.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette?
I move to adopt Resolution 3850.
Second?
Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Jody?
Odericio,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Urbando,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh.
Yes, Resolution 3850 is adopted.
Resolution number 3851 for third reading. Resolution authorizing the City of Bowling Green to participate in the Local Park Improvement Grant Program and to file an application and accept grant funding upon grant application approval.
Mr. President,
Mr. Urbando?
I move to adopt Resolution 3851.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Jody?
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Urbando,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Odericio.
Yes.
Okay. Resolution 3851 is adopted.
Ordinance number 9118 for third reading. Ordinance amending sections 150.85, 150.87, and 150.89 of the codified ordinances of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio.
Mr. President,
Ms. Phipps?
I move to table ordinance 9118 until our next meeting on Monday, September 18th. Our public hearing on this proposed ordinance is this Thursday, September 7th.
Second.
Okay, properly moved and seconded. Jody?
Robinette,
Yes.
Urbando,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Odericio,
Yes.
Phipps.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 9118 is tabled until September 18th.
Ordinance number 9119 for third reading. Ordinance authorizing a no-build easement in John Quinn Business Park.
Mr. President,
Phipps?
I move to adopt ordinance 9119.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Rabando,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Odericio,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 9119 is adopted. Is there any other business to come before council this evening? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, we are adjourned.